Welcome to Fitness Casual. Real results come from more clarity, not more effort. Today, we're going to talk about something that no one is really thinking they need, but they do. Everyone is out there chasing the body of their dreams with protein shakes and harder workouts, but here's the truth, Kat, as we know, if you're not getting enough fiber, your gut can't even use that protein and all of the other things that come with it. 95% of Americans are falling short of their fiber goal. This is why no one can hit their fat loss or their muscle goal. So we're going to show you how fiber fuels gut health, recovery, fat loss, muscle growth, all of the roles that it plays. This is, again, all science-backed. We're lowering inflammation, improving amino acid absorption. This is stuff that everyone knows exists. We just haven't been educated on, but it's still one of the biggest gaps holding people back. So we're going to give you the best foods and daily habits to put this into practice without disrupting your life. And I'm Andrew Hayes, and with me is Kat, first team All-American Fiber. Yeah.
Yep. Hello.
Kat, you've been Team Fiber from day one, from the day we've ever met before it was cool.
Yep.
I feel like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was protein, right? Everyone's protein deficient, protein now. Everyone knows they need more protein. I feel like we're starting to hear more fiber. But not enough, which is why we're doing this episode. But you've been saying it for years since the day we met. What do you think is going to be the next thing in 5 years?
I think in 5 years from now, supplements might be just like off the charts because peptides are really popular right now. So I think they're going to find ways to like get that same thing literally into a pill. And I've also heard about myostatin inhibitors coming out. Ooh, boy. Myostatin is just going to make people jacked and muscular. I'm not sure of the side effects, but I know they're working on that. So it's like a literal pill to get jacked and shredded and lean.
Wow.
And I think that's like going to be pretty interesting to see how that goes. So it's like right now everyone's focused on like the GLP-1s for fat loss, and then everyone's going to lose fat and lose all their muscle. So now we need things to help combat the muscle when everyone's losing it. So I think like that just opens up a good opportunity. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if things swing back into like muscle is cool. Right now, like skinny's in, fat loss, like all that stuff. But I think it might circle back. But I don't know. But I think like the supplement world, they're, multi-billionaires. They're trying to find that pill that actually does it all. And wouldn't be surprised if they get closer to it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Listen, everybody wants a pill. I get it.
Yeah.
I take some supplements too. And I get a lot of questions from friends. And, one of them recently was like, I have joint issues. What supplement should I take? And I was like, the research is pretty weak on that. Anti-inflammatory diet is your best bet. Here's a guide on it. And it's like, most people don't like that answer.
Yeah, boo.
Exactly. And it's like, my wife is a financial planner, as a lot of you know, because she was on the pod. And a lot of people are like, how do I get more wealth? And she's like, increase your save rate and put it in an index fund. Like the most boring answer of all time. It's like, you want my professional advice? So I agree with you. I think the more we can do that stuff in a pill, and there is research, like you can do muscle protein synthesis without ever lifting a finger.
Yep.
If you can build muscle from your couch and you can patent that, you'll be a very rich company. Yeah. So that's interesting. I haven't heard anything about that. I also believe microbiome will be massive. It's really complicated how bacteria plays a factor in everything, your cravings, your muscle, your gut health. And we're starting to see some research around it, but I think it's going to be the next big thing. And that'll probably be us, Kat. We're functional. You're a big gut health expert. I'm sure we'll be doing in 5 years. It'll be like, you'll never lose weight until you fix this in your gut. Like I wouldn't be surprised. We've gotten pretty close to, I haven't really seen a problem you can't solve, Kat, when it comes to like autoimmunity, endocrine, but I think the gut health stuff it's complicated. So I'm excited to see that. Cool.
Yeah, I think the medical landscape will, over the time, turn a little more functional, a little more preventative. I think they're aware of it. It's a gap. I think things are going to hopefully also gear more towards that direction.
Yeah, I think the GLP-1s are actually really helping with that. I think a lot of physicians are realizing like, oh, shoot, I sent someone out the door with this and the side effects were real and the rebound is real. How can I give them more support, knowing that me as a physician, I have 15 appointments every day. I can't call them, but like, what else can I do? It's not as simple as like, here's your prescription and we'll see you in 6 months. So I agree. I think the GLP-1s, as much as they have their pros and cons, have really helped everyone kind of come to this conclusion of like, oh yeah, diet and lifestyle and constant support matter just as much as the prescription. But anyway, we're getting off topic. We're going to talk about how to get the body of your dreams, not only how you look, but honestly, how you feel. And just being vain for a second, Kat, you and I worked together for a second time earlier this year. I have multiple certifications in nutrition. I've helped coach lots and lots of people in our program. I like to think I'm pretty educated at this point, but I hired you anyway to really add some muscle mass. That was my goal. And I was like, I'm just going to do protein and calories, and I'm going to help you, have you help me get there. And the very first thing, you're like, I want to see your fiber every day. And I was like, well, that doesn't really matter. I'm not concerned with gut health right now. And you're like, nope, we need to see your fiber every day. So one thing that a lot of people don't realize is fiber is not just something that your grandma needs to be regular. It's really such an overlooked aspect of being optimally healthy. Kat, where do you want to start?
Well, first, I want to piggyback on that. It's also really important for you because you eat a lot of carbs.
Right.
And if you were to just eat a lot of carbs and not have enough fiber, that could create a whole other issue. And you were always a little concerned about like blood sugar and all that stuff. So that's also why I'm like, hey, if we're going to be bulking or eating hundreds and hundreds of grams of carbs, we have to make sure we're also getting enough fiber in there, but also not too much to where it could also bog down digestion. So there is that sweet spot for everybody, but that's also, segue into what fiber is. Fiber is the non-digestible carbs from plants. So you need to be eating carbs to get fiber because that is what they come from. So I'm just say right now, low carb diets, keto diet. This is why people can get into sticky situations with their gut health or having like constant diarrhea because a low carb diet is really hard to get enough fiber. It's very hard, especially on like keto when you get 30 grams of carbs per day. Like it's not happening.
Right.
But,
I'm just going to make a call right now, the carnivore diet. And like, there's so much people like, look how good I look with my shirt off, or how much energy I have. And I'm just like, I want to see the research in 30 years from now from you going 30 years without eating fiber. Like, and there's like a lot of stuff, colon cancer's on the rise. Fiber's really connected to that. Like common sense tells me that there's no way this is a healthy long-term approach. No one's talking about carnivore diet today, but I think it's relevant,
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, and on that note, I'm like not anti-carnivore for a period of time to do something very specific. But yeah, as a forever thing, that's like the only pushback I have. That and like some nutrients, but I think like, fiber, that's one where I'm like, I don't know. And also for building muscle, but we are getting off tangent. Okay, so fiber. We have two types of fiber, soluble and insoluble. So soluble dissolves in water. It forms like a gel. These are found in foods like oats, beans, apples, flax, chia. Chia is a good example because right when chia seeds get wet, they turn into like jelly goo. That's exactly how soluble fiber works. It helps slow digestion, stabilizes your blood sugar, and improves nutrient absorption. When you eat soluble fibers, it's fermented by your gut bacteria that produces short chain fatty acids like butyrate. I'm saying that specifically because I'm going to mention it multiple times in this episode because butyrate and short chain fatty acids are very, very important. This is why eating fiber is also important because those do very specific things in the body. On the other hand, we have insoluble fiber. These do not dissolve. These add bulk to your stool. That's a obvious place where people see it is like the undigested things. These are found in whole grains, nuts, seeds, veggies. Corn is a really good example, because everyone sees that when it comes out. So that's kind of what's happening there. It's just not really dissolving in your body. These also help keep digestion moving. They can prevent constipation. They support microbiome diversity by giving your bacteria more substrate to work on. And these two work together to keep the gut running efficiently. One is not better than the other. You want to have both. If we got into very specific conditions or, like IBS or, colitis things, maybe you need more of one than the other, but we're not getting into that. In a healthy diet, you want to have both. And all the foods I just mentioned, like nuts, seeds, apples, oats, beans, like you're going to get a variety if you're eating a lot of whole foods or carbohydrates. So fiber is important for many reasons, but there's a very strong connection with the immune system. So 70% of the immune system resides in the gut, and when fiber feeds the beneficial bacteria, this will strengthen your immune defense. So this is very important because if you don't have a good immune system or your body is constantly in like inflammation, acute inflammation mode, you're not really going to be able to lose fat and build muscle all that well. So this is why fiber is very important and protective when it comes to this. Fiber helps maintain gut motility and microbial diversity, so you absorb nutrients better, like all that protein you're going to be eating. You will preserve muscle better, and you have less risk of chronic disease. So the bottom line is it can help maintain your health, and you need to be healthy to lose fat, build muscle, or really change your aesthetic appearance. If you're not healthy enough, those things are either not going to happen or they will be much harder. You need to go to drastic lengths to see a little bit of change. And if you are eating a lot of fiber, it can really support a lot of those underlying things that could be going on. Like inflammation. If you have low-grade inflammation, your muscles will recover slower. You could have muscle loss, and it will lower the baseline inflammation of those short-chain fatty acids. So your body can't make butyrate, won't do what it needs to do if you're not eating enough fiber to get the things you want to have all those aesthetic changes. So we have to set the baseline of, like, at the very foundational level, fiber is just really good for your body, good for your health, good for your immune system, and that leads to the next two things. So one is fiber and muscle recovery. So this, I think, is a little bit of a different take a lot of people aren't aware of, is how fiber, it's not just for the gut. Because it benefits your gut, it also really benefits your muscle health. And when you train or do resistance training, that creates micro tears in your muscle. Those need to repair to lead to growth. So inflammation is necessary, but it must be controlled. Otherwise, you won't get anywhere, or you might actually regress. If you're constantly breaking down and unable to rebuild, that will backfire. But these short-chain fatty acids do help calm this systemic inflammation. So this improves your gut barrier integrity, regulates the immune response, and it means you will recover faster, have less muscle soreness, and you can train more consistently. If you get too sore or you're too broken down to where you can't get to the gym multiple times a week, you're gonna have a hard time building muscle or preserving muscle mass. So you need to be in the gym, 2 times minimum. 3 is great, 4 is awesome. But if you're doing at least 3, that's, I think, a really good sweet spot if you're really concerned with your muscles. And to train 3 times a week properly and well and push yourself and get stronger, your recovery needs to be on point. So that's why fiber is really helpful there. On the protein front, proteins are made up of amino acids. So your fiber needs to support the microbiome to help the amino acid uptake. This is so protein can do its job and be directed towards repair and not towards a inflammatory response. So that's also why fiber is super important for that repair period. I would love it if everyone after a workout could pair protein with a fiber. You don't really have to do that, but I think as long as you're eating enough protein and fiber per day, but I think that is a good window of time to prioritize it. For fiber, it's not that easy to just hit your goal all in one meal. You will need to space it out, but think of that post-workout window. Why not have some berries, have some chia seed, put it in a smoothie. It's a really good time to have it. That will support your blood sugar and better nutrient uptake, and it will support your recovery. But it's not like you have to have it within an hour of training. That's not really how the body works, but we want to be having plenty of it each day to support that recovery. When it comes to fiber and fat loss, so this is the other aesthetic change most people want, is to lose fat. Muscle gain and fat loss work together to improve health span and metabolism. So a lot of people, if you want to look more toned, what you really want is to have more muscle and less fat. You can do kind of both at the same time if you're pretty new to training, but most people will need to do this in phases. I mentioned the muscle part first because I would love everyone to focus on muscle and strength before we try to lose fat, but a lot of people won't do it that way, and that's okay. I'm not going to get mad at you, but both of these things go together, and at the root of a lot of these when it comes to nutrition, fiber is very, very important. So on the fat loss front, fiber increases satiety, it slows down gastric emptying, and it helps you naturally reduce your calorie intake without hunger. So when you are in a caloric deficit to lose fat, the last thing you want is to be super hungry all the time because one, you're not going to feel good at all. You're going to be irritable, cranky, you're going to be super hungry, and it's actually really hard to do anything when you're really hungry all the time. It's very distracting. It feels like, just something you need to address. So if you eat a lot of fiber, you won't feel as hungry. which is great because you're going to feel good. You're not going to think about food as much. You're not going to be hungry every single hour. And that can really prevent mindless snacking and eating empty calories. I think a big reason people struggle with fat loss is they don't realize how much they're eating, not at their core meals, like snacking randomly, or they don't eat core meals and they only graze all day. And you can just get a lot of empty junk there. But if you're focusing on fiber at your meals and your snacks, you will be less likely to overeat stuff that is not so good for you. So that's like a clear win right there. Fiber helps stabilize blood sugar, so it's really good for your insulin sensitivity. You will have fewer cravings. You also won't crash. Like, your energy is not going to tank out. Fiber is really good for energy levels. This is also why, like, fiber, in addition to protein, is like pretty magical for fat loss, and that's why, like, if we never talk about carbs and fats, like, if you're getting a lot of protein and fiber, you're going to feel pretty good. And ultimately, we want nutrients to go where they need to go. So if you have a lot of fiber to support your gut, it will direct nutrients to the muscle instead of fat. And that, you need to be eating enough fiber on a very regular basis. You can't just do this like 1 week in your life. It needs to be happening on repeat every single day. That will be more likely to happen, and you will be more likely to build muscle, preserve muscle, and lose fat. Maybe at the same time, maybe not. But controlling fat gain is very important for your aesthetic appearance. It's not just the act of losing fat or building muscle. It's making sure that when you do some of those things, you don't accumulate fat over time. And fiber is just so helpful for a caloric deficit, feeling good, really good for, supporting your training because you're going to be eating carbs. So that's one other thing. Like, fiber has to come from carbs. This is why on the keto diet, for example, muscle gain is like terrible. Keto diet's really good for fat loss because you are not hungry. You are not hungry at all because you're eating so much fat, but it's terrible for building muscle. So, like, this is why, like, we need an in-between approach for all of these things. And I do think, like, if you pay attention to fiber, it's just going to benefit you in both these areas, which is pretty miraculous. Not many nutrients can do that.
Yeah, and I think that's so important just as the male perspective, like the bro science.
Yeah.
It's obviously important for everyone to build muscle. I think society's kind of come around on that myth that like women should be doing cardio and men should be, bulking. That's like old wisdom, but I feel like every guy was raised on like put a ton of protein on your plate, lift a bunch of weights, and that's how you get huge. And it's like it's really not actually that simple, and it's important to make sure you have a lot of diverse nutrients, in particular carbs and fiber, as we're talking about. And so obviously this applies to everyone, but I think it's also a good note for women of like, you're not going to look, like one of those super bulky CrossFit athletes or something that I think a lot of women generally are afraid of looking that way. It's like, that's not how it works. We're talking about the right nutrients involved in these systems, not eating 5,000 calories of red meat.
Yeah, totally. And also sometimes people are like, well, fiber makes me bloat, gives me gas. That's actually a sign of something else, maybe a food sensitivity. There's some reason your body can't digest and absorb that well, assuming you're not eating it in like super excess, but that's also an indicator something's off. So it's not a sign to avoid fiber. It's kind of like, let me put my detective hat on and see what could be going on here. Is it a certain type? But given that, the range we are looking for women is about 25 grams per day. For men, it's about 35 grams. More is better. I would say from a functional perspective, I really like people to be in like a 30 plus range, like maybe 30 to 50. Some people can tolerate endless amounts of fiber and feel fine. Some people, like when we start going 50 or more, they don't feel so great. Like I can easily eat 50 grams of fiber and I'm fine. Most of the time I end up around like 45 grams per day. And that's also without trying. I'm not trying to brag, but it just naturally adds up because I eat a lot of food that has fiber. And I like doing so. So if you're not hitting 25 grams, let's aim for that. Fun fact, the average American adult averages about 15 grams per day. That's really, really low, you guys.
Sounds high, honestly. Higher than what we see in our program.
Yeah, it's like 15 grams is so nothing. That's like my breakfast is at least 15 grams of fiber. And that just goes to show like that's because processed food has no fiber. It's stripped out of the food. relying on coffee and soda and energy drinks, there's obviously no fiber in that. Maybe a little bit of fear of carbohydrate in there, or just like, but I think it's just totally lack of awareness and lack of understanding that people don't even know that this is important. Or you think 25 grams of fiber, you're like, well, I eat veggies. It's fine. And like, I get it. When I started like adding up fiber, I'm like, oh my God, like having a salad doesn't mean we get a lot of fiber in. It's a little bit trickier than that. So the best sources for fiber are, there's a lot of like really high fiber fruits like berries, apples, and pears. Veggies are good, like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, carrots. Those are high fiber. But if we look at the overall caloric volume of veggies, it's quite low, right? Like how many baby carrots are you going to have to eat to get to 10 grams? It's a good amount because they're really low calorie. So that's one thing, is like if you're eating, some Brussels sprouts at your dinner and that's the only vegetable you have that day, maybe that gets you like 4 to 5 grams. But now we're not getting that far. So that's the idea, is it's not one food, it's a collection of things. Legumes are really good. Lentils, chickpeas, black beans, or any type of bean is usually really high in fiber. I will say those sometimes are harder for people to digest compared to others. This is also where we get into that soluble, insoluble, but beans have like a different property that some people may lack the enzyme to break down, but that's also a sign of a digestive issue if you can't digest beans. So that's like one other thing. Like there's some reason why that's a little bit deeper than, beans make me fart, whatever. We've all been told for forever. Poor beans, like they get a really bad.
Isn't that one thing called Beano?
Beano.
Beano.
Yeah.
It's like they named it after
Beano.
beans. Yeah, the food enzyme. It's funny.
Totally. Whole grains like oats, barley, quinoa, brown rice even is like higher in fiber. Nuts and seeds like flax, chia, sunflower, pumpkin, avocados are incredibly rich in fiber. But if you're not really focusing on those foods I just mentioned, it might be hard to get your fiber up. There are a lot of foods that have fiber added to them. So for example, the bar that I always talk about that I love, the Paleo Valley bar, because they're delicious and they're like legit eating like chocolate. They have, I think, 11 grams of fiber in them. And a lot of protein bars do have fiber added. Not all of them are created equal. Like I would say a Quest bar that has, I think, like 12 something grams of fiber, maybe even more. Maybe they have like 15 or something. They have like a crazy amount, is not the same as something with maybe like a tapioca starch or whatever. So that's where if you eat something that has a lot of fiber added to it, like a Catalina Crunch or like a random protein cereal, and you get really bloated and you don't feel well after, look to the type of protein in there. If you feel fine, I'm not that concerned about it, but I don't want everyone to only get fiber in through things that have fiber added to it. That's where you have to be honest with your intake and take a look. However, I do think they play a really, really important role. Like lately, it's the True Bar, like TRUBAR. Really good quality nutrients in there, good macros, I think like 11 grams of fiber. A lot of our clients eat one True Bar in addition to all their other whole foods and they're good to go. So it's like maybe you need to find that one thing to have, but the idea is they're also having a bunch of other things to help get it up. It's not just one food in isolation. But because fiber is on the rise as a trend, just like we saw with protein, how protein is now everything you could dream of, there's a protein version. Fiber is going to be the same, but not all are created equal, so you just have to pay attention to how you feel. I have to give a shout out to, what is it, Olipop or Poppy, these like fiber soda.
Yeah.
I don't know, you guys. Like, I don't know what to think. It's not the same as food. It can't possibly be, right?
Yeah.
But there technically is like 7 to 9 grams of fiber in there. So like, I'm not going to say it doesn't count, but I personally wouldn't rely on that to be my fiber source. And I think that's also like, this is a big gray area in nutrition and net carbs and like all of these things. And a lot of diet foods use net carbs. So they'll like, those tortillas that are like 20 grams of fiber per tortilla, and they say they have like 50 calories. Like that's confusing because that's not true. And they're just saying because fiber, it's as insoluble fiber and you're not digesting it, it's like the calories don't matter. It's not really that straightforward. It's quite complicated, but that's why pay attention to like diet foods or foods that are meant to help you lose fat or whatever, because there might be some sneaky marketing in there that you're not fully grasping. So I would just say if you have that, fine. Do not skip on the whole foods. Your body uses that better. Your body needs nutrients to help absorb other things. So you like all the other nutrients in berries or apples or broccoli, like that will help your body in a variety of ways. So that's why we always want you to focus on that. But you're going to see fiber added to everything. Like it's coming. So
Yeah, already kind of is.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I personally noticed the difference with frozen berries. To me, it's just pretty easy to have those on hand. You know, same nutrient density, frozen or fresh, it doesn't matter. They last longer, they're cheaper. Get them frozen if you want to. I find such a difference between that and like a cereal with what is inulin or inulin, however you say it. That's like a really common additive for fiber increase. And like to me, I don't quite see the difference there because I'm just aware of it. And so, yeah, when in doubt, Whole Foods.
Yeah,
whenever you can.
Totally. Tips for having more fiber. Increase gradually to avoid bloating. Some people can handle eating more right away. Some people really need to scale this up. If you are someone who's been constipated for a really long time, you need to probably go slower, because if your body cannot clear things, toxins, fiber, hormone from the body, this could cause more bloating because it's kind of like a buildup in the colon that can ferment and putrefy, cause gas, all sorts of issues. So if that's you, then I would go slowly, like 5 grams at a time. If that's not you, then you could just try getting more in, see how it goes. For most people, it's a non-issue. The only people I see it being an issue with are the people who I would expect it to be because of like motility issues. But for most people, not really that big of a deal. You need to drink water. Fiber needs fluid. It's very important that there's like fluid involved. So also, if you increase your fiber and you don't drink more water, you might get some issues. So you need to be drinking lots of water, especially if you are relying on chia seeds. I'm not mad at you if the only thing you do is add 2 to 3 tablespoons of chia seeds to your day to hit your goal. Trust me, I've seen it many a time. I've seen people try to have an unbelievable amount of chia seeds. I'm just going to put this out there. If you have too many chia seeds with not enough fluid, they can clump in your intestines and create a like serious medical issue. Like you're going to the ER issue. Because they clump and they need water, and then you can't just swallow a bunch of dry seeds. So if you ever have chia, I always say like you need to hydrate it, like add water to it, like overnight oats, add them in there, or do a chia pudding. It needs to sit, it needs to gel, and then you can have it and be fine. I'm just gonna say this. The last time I had chia seeds, I put 1 tablespoon in a smoothie, and then about an hour and a half later, I was in jujitsu class and I like projectile vomited.
Whoa.
I don't eat chia seeds really, and it's not because I don't like them. I just don't need them. I have plenty of fiber, and my body had like a full reaction.
That's
and
crazy.
The only thing I changed in that day was adding chia seeds, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna do chia now. And I think my body just like had a reaction, and it's not uncommon for some people to just not be able to digest them well. I have no idea what happened to me. I haven't had them in a thing since.
Wow.
Because it was really disruptive to my jujitsu experience.
I bet.
But I was like, I knew, like I got this weird stomach ache, and then like I had to throw up. So I was like, interesting. But chia, yeah, for some people, it just doesn't jive very well. But you just need to have fluids, and try not to rely on that as your only source. If you do smoothies, it's a good thing to add in. But I just think we can't have too much of the soluble. We need a balance of both. Okay, so just putting that out there, drink lots of water and don't try to cheat the system by just eating chia seeds. Okay, so you should also pair with protein for the best muscle outcomes. If you want to change your aesthetic appearance, muscle is very important. If you want to look more toned, you have to have muscle when you lose fat. So like we just mentioned, with recovery from your workouts, reducing inflammation, like have protein and fiber at every meal, you're going to be feeling pretty good. And like we just said, focusing on real foods, really, really important there. Not saying don't have some of the added ones, but don't have it be the only thing. If you choose to have a fiber supplement, I'm also not mad at that. I'm always a big fan of Thorne, the Fiber Mend. I think we did that in the supplement episode. I had that one in there. Yep. Because that one is not like most fiber supplements.
It's a mix, right, of both?
Yeah. It also has prebiotic fiber in there, so it's like good for your gut in general. There's a lot of fiber supplements. I am not a fan of fiber gummies. If you want them, have them. I'm not going to yell at you, but I'm like, do we need to eat 15 grams of sugar to get 3 grams of fiber? It's kind of insane. But if you like that, that's fine. I'm not a big gummy vitamin person, but especially like for fiber, I just think it's kind of funny when you could like eat berries real quick and be fine. But I get it if you're traveling and whatnot. But I do think I would prefer a powder mixed with liquid over a gummy, just because the gummies don't move the needle, and getting like 2 to 3 extra grams of fiber per day, like if you just eat a serving of some food, we could probably get a lot more and have more benefits from it. But if you want to have a psyllium husk or some sort of fiber powder, that's fine. Just make sure it's not the only way you're getting to your fiber goal, or you're not doing like massive amounts of it to hit 25 or 35 to 40 grams, because it should only be helping a little bit. It shouldn't be doing most of the work. That's where you need the real food. So if we were to give an example day of eating, because now I know a lot of people are like, how do I even get this much fiber? Here's just an example. So for breakfast, you could have Greek yogurt with blueberries, a little bit of ground flax, and some whey protein. For lunch, you could have chicken thighs with lentils, some broccoli, and avocado. Snack, apple with almond butter. Dinner, salmon with quinoa, Brussels sprouts, and a little bit of sauerkraut or kimchi on there. Very simple. Those are all whole foods. That would be like a fantastic day of eating. You would tweak the portion sizes to get to your macro goal, but we do not need to go that crazy. I said very simple foods right there. And if you're just eating enough of those foods, you will hit your goals. All of those meals also had balanced protein, balanced macronutrients. So like that would be a good model to follow. But if you're like, I don't know where to start when it comes to fiber, pick 2 meals per day to try to get more fiber in. Not all of them, maybe not your snacks, but let's start with 2 and we could probably get pretty far. But this is also where like Google is your friend. You can Google high fiber food. Like this is so easily to look up. This information is readily available. This is nothing like complicated or tricky. You just have to Google like what are the highest fiber foods, or ask ChatGPT, and you will get a million answers. Even recipes, like you can find recipes that have high fiber. Like this is not that hard. You just need to have a plan and some structure, and then you will totally get it done.
And we have our fat loss fuel guide, which has lots
of
fiber information, lots of high fiber foods. So you can DM Kat the word burn to get that guide.
Yeah, I think they have at least 30 grams of protein and maybe 10 grams of fiber for each meal. So if you have 3 of those meals, we hit your fiber goal for the day, and then you probably need a little extra protein here and there, and then you're good to go.
Yep. I love it. Anything else we didn't cover?
I mean, fiber is so dense. Like we could do a million things on fiber, but we wanted to give a good angle on how it makes you look. Obviously, it's gonna make you feel good, but a lot of people, don't think of fiber with like an aesthetic thing. So we want to just bring that together, that like eating more fiber can actually make you look better. And at the end of the day, that's what a lot of people want. Feeling better is wonderful, but everyone wants to look better.
Yep, exactly. And it's okay to say it, especially if you do it the right way, in a way that is sustainable and supports your long-term health, which is exactly what fiber does, which is why we did this episode. Well, you can get our fiber guide from Kat by DMing the word burn to Kat Best Wellness, and you can get more of her fiber conscious knowledge and love of avocados. And you can follow me on Instagram at Andrew Hayes Life, and you can meet lots of other fiber loving folks in our Alta Life community and get more resources just like that one to help increase your fiber and look and feel your best. See you for the next one, everybody.
Thanks, guys.